So a lot of questions we had asked around, the performance of the banks. Can they be maintained, and certainly can the dividends continue to be maintained? When we think about the banks, they make an important part of not only the economy but certainly in terms of the investable market, and upwards of historically nearly close to 30% of the investable market. The key aspect for banks, like any investment, is the sustainability of their earnings. Why would you invest in a company that isn't growing its earnings? And part of that growth in earnings also means the ability for that business to be able to pay dividends back to shareholders. Banks historically have been a good payer of dividends to shareholders, and equally have been able to grow their earnings base quite solidly over a decade or more. What we've now seen over the more recent times, particularly not only post the Royal Commission, but more importantly, we've started to see increased credit lending standards, the requirement of banks to hold more capital on their balance sheets. So from that perspective, it's harder for banks to grow their earnings as they have done previously. And it's a more challenging environment that the banks are facing into. Certainly in our view, we think the banks will be required to even hold more capital from a regulatory standpoint. Lending standards remain tight. We've seen the demand for household credit also start to dissipate somewhat. In a nutshell, we think bank earnings are going to moderate over the next 12 to 18 months. We've seen that in the way the banks are tightening their lending standards and the like. And equally, on the back of that, we're seeing payout ratios and the absolute level of dividends also declining slightly. It doesn't mean the banks aren't going to deliver a solid income to investors, but as always, when you're thinking about positioning a portfolio, it's important to have that right mix. So when thinking about banking stocks in your portfolio, it's really worthwhile talking to your advisor about, are they delivering the right level of growth and income for your particular strategy?